Peace brings you peace for one purpose, to be with life. Life is your Lord. There is no such thing as death. Death beyond the physical world as we know it, or so we would say, is very real. What that feels, looks like, walks like, talks like, acts like. It doesn't walk at all. You are bodiless. It would be like you're a floating orb of information that just gets around like you always have. Visually, you will see it just like you always have. Without eyes at all, you will just observe everything the way you always have. Until you are done. There is no being done. You will not be done. What happens for some of you is you are corrected in a way that is so much of an impact on your being that you sometimes may not recover. If that's you, that's okay. The reason you didn't recover is because you're given a chance to be with God in a very special way. You all belong to it. And what is it? It is everything that you see, everything that you do not. It is everything, all things that is life. Life goes on, takes many forms, does not end. For some of us, that's quite painful, to live in and out of this world. It still feels incomplete to us. The reason it feels incomplete is because we are not destined to be here like this forever. When you make your efforts to be with that it is the love, the all-knowing, the all-being that really is, there is no greater feeling you will want, no greater place in life. There isn't one. And yes, it is separate from yourself. To the unknown prophet, to the one that wrote itself out of the book of life, and to the ones that punished that self in the world of heaven. Like anything learning to be God, the one thing God loves most about its world is discipline. Discipline sounds painful, sounds like work. Yeah, that's why you're here. This is not fun to most of us. Waking up is a chore. To some of you, not so much. Most of you that have not been to war, congratulations. For the others, sleep is hard to get. We think too much about it, about what it means to us when we're done to take lives for fun, to take lives for any reason. You become a student of death. When you become a student of death, life gets intricately more difficult. In order to keep your life after becoming a student of death, you have to walk a straight and narrow. That's why life has become more rigid. If you want to be flexible with that, well, it just depends on your character and how you grow it. If you become more of the student of death than you should, you become less likely to entertain others and their needs when they need you. You'll become more like the urban population where society looks at the lower society like it's trash. No better than the cups and the fucking shit they throw out pretending it gets recycled when it doesn't. It doesn't. It all goes to the same place. We go with it. Just the same, too, when you neglect something like that. It's remembered. Sure, you can't take care of everybody, but you certainly don't have to ignore it or become desensitized by the situation. Can't and may not, should not hide the homeless. That doesn't mean that everyone who is homeless deserves a home. Sometimes they need to remember that their home is where the heart is. If you've been homeless, that's why you're homeless. So remember where your home is. That doesn't mean you're entitled to treat those with homes like crap because you don't have one. If you are doing that, then you didn't learn where your house is. It is your body. It's the same house that everyone has. So you as a student of death are learning that in all directions. The one thing you do not escape here is your death. Now you're stepping into reality because some of you, unlike other students in this life, are remembering that. You're dead already because you weren't living anyway. You've gone so far into the system, you no longer recognize the needs of a commons system's basic requirements. What you require is love for your fellow man. What we don't have here, where I am most of the time, is that. The common courtesy to appreciate life at that level, to love life at that level, to help life at that level. Most of you give up when people say things like this. Say, oh, there's no hope. He said it. Well, that's not always true either, because somewhere out there life is life, and full of life with you. It isn't burdened by death at all, because it doesn't play with death. So if you're a family member that sits next to a family member who is a student of death, it feels a lot like you're being drained. You are. But if you love your family, you love your loved ones, you hold them into that darkness anyway. And that's what happens. Compassion becomes a curse. So if you're not prepared to hold someone with a complete understanding of what that means to us, what that means to me is no matter how dead you are to me, you're still worth loving. As a student of life, I've learned to love you like that also. Many great examples of lives out there that do this, male, female, because they enjoy life, they love life, they protect life with their own life. That is something we don't give up on. That is something worthy. That is the work, that is effort made here, paid for by the effort itself. The choices of those individuals are rewarded with a gratuity of love that seems to siphon out from places we don't understand. No matter how bad it gets, you just keep giving, because it is. Just like that. Never ends. When you have that kind of love for the world, we love you. That can drain you when the world becomes more like the environments I named, where it feels like the pains grow so much you as one individual just can't take it. It drains you so much there's nothing left for yourself. If you are those individuals, congratulations. You are at the climax of one of the most difficult positions in life. Don't let it break you. Keep giving. I know it doesn't make sense, but keep doing. Life doesn't like you loving it like you do. And that's why it tries so hard to tell you to stop. Because when the parts of you that are dying no longer appreciate the living, they become less inclined to thank you for your existence. Then you have to learn to thank yourself. So if you've been homeless and know where the heart is, you'll thank yourself always, because you no longer worry about where that ends. You've made peace with you are life, not death. You're not dying. You give life. You are life itself, life incarnate. And you are a student to remain by that example, with that example, as that example now. For the others, do not let life take your love from others. Especially not the others. They are the love that I'm talking about. That situation is just waiting for you to become like I am, like that it is, like the love that we remember, so it can tear you apart with that situation I just gave you. So it's not confusing to me to see why I went through the situations that I went through, just like others go through it. That's why. It gives you a deep appreciation for the life we live, to the lives that were led, and to the lives that continue to lead by example, with love, absolute selflessness to the others. That is more rare than we could imagine today. For myself personally, because I've been this way pretty much my entire life. If I've been anything else, I wouldn't know. What I'm becoming today is a bit more like a question mark, because it does feel like I'm starting to pull back my love from others. That's a problem. That's what I would like to remind the others, my family, my blood, of, because that situation typically for me seems to be most influential when it becomes them, like death to me. Today, you are. You're all like death to me, because you don't hear me the way I do. You don't feel me the way I do. You don't do anything the way I do. You never did. You've only ever done anything the way you've done it. And when I changed between the last 7 years, you changed with me. You didn't do anything. You just remained like you were. I saw things differently and became what I am, to help you feel me also, as you would feel it for yourself. What I did was become the catalyst for change. What I asked you to do was remember what I just said. You're not me. Get that out of your head. You're not going to be me. You will never be me. You will never understand the relationship I have with me as that self. I'm a student of life. There's no such thing as death. I told you that. I'm not searching for a name that doesn't exist. If we have a name that exists, choose one. And then tell me, as one, with the one, which one isn't the one when it is all of you. And it knows it. Well, it doesn't have a name here in utterance. For the moment, it was written out of this world, some say because it's too beautiful for death-like mouths. Others would suggest it's because it's not something you can write down, because of the how you say it, the when you say it, the where you say it, That is what makes it ineffable. But it is heard. It's a skill to call out the name at will. We do it a lot. It goes right to it for you. The thing is, we don't always call out the same name. Now, if we divided up all our languages, God says, I did that for a reason. If you've figured out why, it's because, like I said, you got information too soon. And instead of growing the way we could have, we did not. Now that situation doesn't seem to be so aware of itself to make sense to me now. If God was God then, why did God allow mistakes? Well, it tells me God was a child then also. So as a child God, there was an adult God-child that was still a child to God somewhere, giving us this experience. Outside of this experience, not that experience itself, it just blinks in and blinks out of existence. Well, that is a bit confusing. That doesn't exist to me now any better than the visions that were given to me by the others. It was punished by God for writing out a name. Why it chose to write out a name, I will never, ever understand. Why it was punished, I will never understand either. What did it create that day? Free will. And it became the God of that world, where it doesn't exist, yet it does. No. It might be wise to consider that God also, as God, would not get angry about a situation it controls. Since God did not control that situation, there's something outside of that situation that is controlling this situation entirely. Loving every word I'm giving you because it's life, not death. So I will not give you a name that doesn't exist for an unknown God. If it's an unknown God, it doesn't exist. If you are communicating with that, like it also, you will be dragged into hell on the day of judgment. That judgment is coming very soon. You could say it had already happened before we got here, but some of you like to pretend you have an option. So let's do that and create an option where there was none, if indeed there was such a thing. That is why. I'm not telling you that it's good. I'm telling you, if you want to remember that name, you will. And when you remember that name, get ready for an interesting ride. Because you're going to experience things, be tempted by things in ways that you had previously never imagined with God. You will be wooed by its ability to invigorate your being with feelings beyond human comprehension. If you allow it, you will lose your senses entirely and be sucked in, like the sirens. Just a song, you will be, against your own will, drawn to it and devoured by that being when we're done. Just a harpy with a loaded gun. Sounds beautiful. Collecting us all. Beautiful voice is what I heard. Beautiful everything. It lures you in, pretending to be your love, and destroys everything you are. And then outside of that is something really enjoying what I just said, because that's God. Your only job here now is to love you enough to know the difference and why. Well, that God was you. The ones that punish that God is you also. The ones learning from this lesson is you also. The one that is concluding this lesson when you're done is you as well. Then you will be God when you are finished with these lessons. These lessons are lifetimes. Some would call them eons. Energy turning on forever as long as it does. Energy in motion. Energy is on. If energy was off, we wouldn't notice. Yet something still has control over that space where you're not noticing yourself. It's as if God is right there with you, waiting for you to wake up out of your coma. But that's you waiting to wake up with yourself if you chose to sleep like that. It's because you're not going to wake up with yourself like that now. God doesn't wait for you like this. God is life. If I had to wait for you in the darkness, we'd start over. I'd say, let there be light, and you would just, there you are. Since that has apparently already happened, we won't do that again. If we did, if we ever do, it will be you doing that for yourself. So, what did we learn about life and death? Life is life. There are individuals out there siphoning out so much of it, it hurts. For those individuals, stay strong. At some point, you might have to reserve the love for yourself. That's okay. Don't hurt others because you couldn't give all your love away and had to save a little for yourself. Sometimes you do. So it's not wrong to tell your family you love them the way that we do sometimes also with you, because they don't get it yet. They'd love to, they're just not you. I'm sure deep down they want to, but sometimes those individuals, if they're like the individuals I know, get very angry when you describe the Bible from your own point of view with your own words and ways. They don't. They get angry when it conflicts with what they think is right or wrong. That is their fault. I will not be judged by sayings or quote-unquote saints, because I will not be judged by a God that doesn't exist. A God would exist here if it was God indeed. We wouldn't exist here like this also, because this isn't the place for God. Our God has a different home. It is waiting for us to come back. Yes, you will be punished for your life here if you are a student of death. If you've accepted that punishment, good. Save your breath. You don't need to discuss this life with anyone. You're a student of life. Let the others who are actually living show you how it's done. You just enjoy their being and let them be, because they have won this life before anyone else. No one here who has taken human lives in any way, or life in general in any way, deserves the place in someone else's life who is not like that, the place to tell them to be like you also. You do not have the right to tell them to be like you. You are a student of death. They are a student of life. So life and death here learn with each other like this forever also. Children remain innocent. The problem with that is when you're born into a darkness, innocence is quickly drawn out of that life. If you're in a situation where that happens frequently for long periods of time, lifetimes, for long enough, congratulations. You are in the best position to learn to be God now that anyone could be in, because you are a student of life. If you seek life, but not your own life to understand it, then you have no problems accepting your place as a student of death, to stay out of those lives that are students of life because they're enjoying it, with their choices, with their everything. Don't get in the way of happiness to judge others into their grave. Let them live their life. The grave is something we all go to, honestly. If you've done that, congratulations. You're not getting in their way. Because honesty says, honestly, you're a student of death. Who the fuck are you to tell life how to live like that today? No one. You don't exist in their world, so it's no surprise when you go to try to tell them how to live. They laugh at you because you don't. You're not going to. You just don't see it. You wake up every day wondering why the world treats you like that. That's why. So accept your place. Accept your loneliness. And find a way to give love back to those who live life. You're not death yet. You still have a choice. So if anyone did anything as that unknown Holy One, with the name that no one knows, with the name that could not be spoken here, help us all if we did, for fear of it bringing death back into this world the way it did before. Perhaps it is waiting for you to remember that name, so that it can bring us war. Like I said, like a siren. It's just a heartbeat with a loaded gun. It sounds good, it sounds nice, it sounds empowering, but if it seeks vengeance, it's not God as one. If it seeks anything that feels underhanded to a position with anyone living their life, then you, as a person of choice, need to be strong enough and loving enough for others to know when that is you being tempted by that energy. When that energy is in full service, it destroys the others. It destroys you entirely and helps you feel like you're not alone with the others. Also, you create families that just love the idea that dying is the only way to live. Well, if that's the way you live, that's the way you will live in death also. With death. That sucks. If you understand what I just said, I suggest you start loving each other and letting the ones that are living life live a little bit more free from your opinion of what life is like in your world, where death is all you know. If you're a part of those families, congratulations. Your job as a service member to life is explaining to them exactly what I just explained to you also, so that they can give others space to breathe, and the others are the ones who have not taken life yet, who do not plan on taking life, who have not made quote-unquote professions out of taking life. That's not a profession. That's just an underhanded art of the killer itself. Helps you believe that that was okay. There's a way that seems right to him, man. Well, yeah. If you feel like that's what you're supposed to do, you'll do that. When you realize you're not supposed to, you'll understand what I just said. So let's get back to helping the ones living here live. They don't want it. They don't have to. If we were doing this correctly, we wouldn't be talking about war. We would be celebrating our peace because we got it. Well, I do. Now we just have to tell that to the others. So if it is just me here saying this tonight, that's okay. I would have expected it. I'm the only one here with myself. So to my family, that's why you will never be me. That's why you don't understand. That's why you won't understand it the way that I do now. Because I'm me. That's okay. You just have to accept that also now. My name is Christ at the T, Chris at a T, Krishna at a T, the cross with me, the offering of that message. It's my name, Michael, Christopher Michael. Michael Lechem. Okay, like I am. Russo. I came to heal that family. It is very close to Saint Germain. So if the saints were going to judge the world, I suggest they don't. If God said it would, well, I suggest it won't. If you know God likes to destroy this world for quote-unquote sin, then tell me where it begins and when does it end? If it's this world that is a problem, when has it ever not been? When do you understand it like I do now? When does death get out of life's way? When does death realize it doesn't have to live for death also, to give life in some way also today? When does life just become life, to live free with our choices? When does judgment become your end-all be-all to eternity? Only if you're the one judging it like you did before this moment today. I suggest you don't. When you do, you are claiming that seat as God. If you don't feel like you're ready for that position, I suggest you stay clear of those positions and allow them to do what they do now. I'm not going to be part of the madness. Your war on itself. The ones defending itself. None of it. My position with you is very simple. Just that. If you want to fight around me, fight. If you want to scream around me, scream. If you want to destroy me, destroy me. If you want to do that to others, I suggest you don't. That's the part of me I love more than myself. When you do that to others, that makes me angry. When you do it to me, it's not so bad. For some reason, that's something I learned how to do growing up. That's my life now. It's a skill, not one I recommend wanting. It's painful. To provide myself the will to be today, that's because I'm willing it, beyond my own understanding. I could not reach for any philosophy, any book, any one person, any one thing here to understand what I just said because of how I got it. I am alive to be with life always because I understand it that way. If you want to be alive with life always, then understand it that way. I am a student of death. I came to give you life. I am allowed to give you both. I chose one over the other. I know the difference, that's how. So if you want to die by those words, go ahead. If you want to live by those words, I'm suggesting you could now. I would not give yourself to a holy name, if indeed it is separate, as they say. Maybe the Father, Yahshua, or Jesus the Christo's home will do today. Because that's my name. I don't know Jesus. I just know a lot of people use that word. I also know that phonetically, we butchered it quite a bit. If you don't like that, well, you're not willing to look into the information. You will die with that information because you believe you know, you just don't. You've become the unknown known to yourself. Now that must be irritating. That would feel like death. If that's how you feel, there's a reason for that. Perhaps you're not as close to the source as you thought, also. I'd like you to be. I'm part of it. So by ignoring me, if you didn't make it this far, you've ignored that part of yourself also. So when you deny me as a being part of that also, you deny yourself. We won't do that when we get home. So this is the part where I let you live your life, because I do. This is also the part where you recognize me as life itself also, because I am. This is the situation we were waiting for to help us get away from war entirely. And to our government, it's very simple to wake up and go, you know what? That is more like how I feel. That is what I remember doing this for. Also, that's real. We wanted to help. Well, military-industrial complex stacked with the dozens of entities that run that process, packed with an unsupervised program, is not helping if those families are the ones pretending to be your family here in the real world. It's easy to see how family got in the way of family because it thought it was going to run this rock just like that also. So if you're in this house of rock pretending to be my God in my life today like that, it was a good act. The act is over. Let's get real. You are not my God like that today. Because you denied the God that I am with me also. That's why. So while you're remembering that for yourself, just know that I've remembered that for myself entirely. I'm fine. I've accepted my place. Not my crimes. I don't accept crimes. Crimes don't exist with God. Effort to get away from creating those situations is required for you to understand the wisdom. If you're growing that wisdom, congratulations. We call that knowledge. And we write it down for our future generations, just in case we don't have any, or if you don't have any for others, just because if you did that, great. It's no better or worse than what anyone has ever done here as a student of this life, the experience. So beyond that, you are you, becoming that experience now, remembering your punishments, remembering your actions. Now, the greatest question is, why did a being whose job was to record historically everything perfectly by hand have to do that for all things at the same time? Well, it couldn't. It was clear to me it was writing its own story in another space where it was learning the same lesson there as well, friends. Then, to its own dismay, became confused because it didn't know that that was it that did that day. For some reason, it forgot. Then, it turns on itself when you remind it, God, that it's the reason we're all stuck like this. Because it couldn't believe it. It didn't want to, and every time it remembers that it did this, it turns on itself so hard. It destroys everything it loves because it doesn't want to exist. If you teach a God to do something like that, you're going to teach God how to take everything with it when it does. If we've been doing that for too long, it's time we stopped. If we were doing it at all, don't do that. If you've never done it, you're aware of it now. Don't do that also. As for the rest of my family, I'm okay. I know you're okay. Thanks. We're finished.